Hello. This is Robert Morales, RCO Network. We're back here on a Wednesday now. With The Inner Journey. My wonderful, extremely astute, and absolutely delicious, maybe, co-host, Miss Mary VanAlstyne. Let me see if I can get her on. There we go. Is that appropriate to say delicious? Is that the?
I don't know.
I haven't nibbled on you for a while.
I love the word delicious. It's a delicious word.
We explore different things here. Every week we come at you with emotions and the things that we encounter in life and the challenges that we face. And we're here to talk about them. Mary works for a title company, and I work here in real estate, but we're not here to talk about those businesses. But being an entrepreneur is somewhat unique position to be in because it allows you to explore these different things and become one in yourself. Because you really are challenged in many different ways when it comes to a business and establishing that business. So we're here to talk about those feelings and the things we go through.
Just in life in general, yeah.
Our life in general. So we were talking about purpose and, the direction of the show. And I think a lot of it has to do with establishing and understanding emotions and taking a leadership position on top of them.
Exactly. Yeah. Because understanding does nothing without some action behind it, right?
Correct. And thank you to one of our viewers out there for giving us some feedback regarding our show. So we're going to come at you again every week. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead, hit that like button. Give us a little heart if that means something to you, because that does definitely mean something to us. If you're on YouTube right now, also hit that subscribe button and get us every week along with other shows here at RCO Network. So, hello. Let me do it again. Hello. I love having a soundboard, by the way.
I'd be in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, no, let me give it up. So anyway, we did talk about this week's topic. We're talking about weight loss, and I will start off with, I started my whole journey within myself at 320 pounds. And I should have loaded the picture and set it all up, but it was kind of a last minute thing. So we did some changes, but yeah, I ballooned up to about 320 pounds. I was a very low point in my life. A lot of things going on at the time. This was approximately, I want to say, about 10, 15 years ago. And that journey since then has been a tremendous ride to get to this point. And you've experienced something very similar, right?
I have. Ever since I was a child, I was always very, very up and down with my weight. It was one of my worst enemy. My body was my worst enemy, I guess I would say. And I've had a few pregnancies, which didn't help, right? The up and down. And then I think after I had my twins, I had my greatest challenge as far as that went with weight. Yeah. But then it wasn't anything that I had done differently other than a massive shift in my mindset. And that led to me now, 7 years later, always maintaining about the same weight. So
how far did you get up to?
I was up to 205.
Is that shameful to say?
No, not at
bad?
all. No.
I mean, it's hard to accept. And, I realize it's really hard to say 320 pounds because that was like a different person. That was a whole other person inside of me. Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I've lost about 95 pounds since then. I still feel a little heavy, but the mindset of that really never goes away. Those feelings of inadequacy at times established there way beyond when I first took that bite of a cheeseburger or many cheeseburgers since then.
Just a couple cheeseburgers.
It's quite a few. So I will say, at my worst point, I do remember many times trying to lose weight and many times presenting in front of my family and people. I'll eat oatmeal and I would eat healthy bars and shit, and just sit there and nibble. And then the minute I'm on my way to work, I'd leave about 15 minutes early because 15 minutes would be just enough time to get to Burger King, into the line at Burger King, get 3 double cheeseburgers, and just eat them on the way in with a Coke. I loved Coke. Yeah. And not the diet stuff, the real red, stick to your arteries kind of Coke.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I didn't share this with you, but from my probably early 20s until about 30 years old, I struggled really bad with eating disorders. So I also would I struggled with bulimia, and the funny thing is I had eating disorders, yet I was always struggling with weight. So that added something to it, right? Weight, body dysmorphia is on top of it because, to be honest, I'm 5'10", 205. It's not like, oh my gosh, it wasn't anything like that. But it was, to me, I saw something probably more like 320 when I looked in the mirror, just because of all the other psychological effects of the eating disorder. And it's about it's so much more than a physical thing when we are struggling with the weight like that, I believe.
Yeah, and did you ever explore, kind of the origins of those initial thoughts? Because obviously, that had to come somewhere where bulimia and the eating was an outlet to satisfy that in some way or to fix that in some way. I mean, I've explored mine, but I didn't know if you've.
For me, I did a lot of exploration when I was going through the healing of that, and what I did learn was the bulimia was just a way for me to get some kind of control. I felt out of control over my emotions. I had no control over those. I was so emotional all the time, and I felt very out of control over the circumstances in my life for the most part. And that was the only thing I saw that I had control over, and it was something for me to obsess upon. And then it was also another reason for me to hate myself because I was in a very depressed state. I was very depressed a lot of my earlier years. So,
do you think there's a significant difference between men and women in the way they deal with these things? Because I think I would go on a limb and say there's probably more women that deal with bulimia and anorexia than men do. I know men do, but I would say if there was a demographic to put that, it would be more women. Is that fair to say, or is that?
I think that's a pretty good assumption, just because of a lot of the things that they put out there for women about how you need to look, and your value based on your looks and your body looks like, and I also believe that there's probably a lot more men struggling than we know.
Yeah, because I think it's hard for men to admit anything, first and foremost. But then to admit that they do have a problem. I mean, I had an eating problem. I had the exact opposite.
Well, I don't know that they're. I really don't see them as opposite. I see them both as some kind of vice to mask something else, right?
Yeah.
So the only difference is you didn't throw up.
Yeah.
So it was like the same kind of thing. So it was trying to cover something up or trying to. I mean, it could be a control thing. It could be several different things. For me, it was control. Yeah.
Do you think our culture also kind of drives that acceptance? Because if you're overweight, being bulimic can be somewhat acceptable in a way because it's like, well, you're overweight, you should be doing something about it, and if that's your only result. I mean, this culture is just so weirdly constructed, where I think that you're forced to kind of do those actions or do those things to satisfy some other perspective in the culture. You can't be fat. And if you're fat, you're eating too much. You need to watch your eating. If you're too skinny, then you need to eat more. So there's no real defined balance, or defined like, hey, this is the right person. And even then, the culture is like, oh well, there's different forms of acceptance too. It's just so skewed in understanding and trying to figure out what's normal.
Yeah, I don't think there is a normal.
I don't think so either.
They also, sometimes it felt like those kinds of things and those kinds of issues were glamorized a little bit, in the model industry and things like that. So, it's a lot. It's a lot to wrap your head around, for sure. Yeah,
because the culture in the 50s was way different. I mean, like Marilyn Monroe, she would not necessarily fit the kind of culture we had, in the, I would say the 90s. The 90s was very kind of gaunt and kind of really overly skinny. And I think the 2000s and maybe today's culture is a little bit more accepting of everybody.
Yeah, we definitely are evolving.
But there's still that kind of undertone. Maybe it's the older culture that's still pushing that along. But there's still so many things about weight and the way we look at things that it's just maybe we need to reevaluate and take a look at.
Maybe we need to really just realize that we're all beautiful, and then all we have to do is work on our inner self, and we can be whatever we want to be, right?
Absolutely. And, we're coming to the first 10 minutes. So if you're watching us and you like what you're seeing, go ahead and hit that like button because, you like watching me and Mary or Heather, whoever you want to call her.
My alter ego.
I have to remind myself it's not Heather. I did that once. I mistake.
I know, and you keep reminding yourself. Therefore, it's always in the front of your mind.
I know. I put Mary here so I don't screw up. I put Mary there.
He knows my name.
And so we're here at the Inner Journey talking about emotions and feelings. And this week we're talking about weight loss and the journey that we've both been on. But we've also talked about some of the changes we've had to make. I think the first and foremost, the first part of the show was to recognize, hey, there is a problem. How that's worked or manifested or fixed in some sort of way, I don't think we have control of. That's just our culture. So I think it has to be in an individual level because we get it from all ends, right? Growing up, I was told I was too fat. you know, and almost to manifest it in my later life to where I was fat, you know. And I look at pictures of myself when I was a kid, and I'm like, I was just normal. I was just fatter than my brother. My brother was just really skinny, you know, and so I was just chunky. And then, of course, you know, I remember all those days at the table, and, you know, it was like, you know, well, I don't want to finish what I want to eat. Give it to Bob. He'll eat it. And, of course, I'm there. I'm like, okay, I'm just eating. I'm eating along, you know. Yeah. So I would eat all the leftovers, and it would drive me crazy. And then, you know, and then later on, they're wondering, well, why are you so big? Why'd you get so big?
Well, I mean, that just kind of drives home that point of the affirmations that you make to yourself. I mean, those are very formative years. I was also called overweight when I was little, and it was, you know, the group of friends would always, Mary's the big girl, let's get on her back and do piggyback, you know, and that kind of thing. And it was like, you start to then take this, you know, when you're impressionable at those ages, and then you start to turn around and you start to say these things to yourself, then that's where it really starts to spin out of control. Because now what are you affirming to yourself? Of course you're going to go out there and become what you're telling yourself you are. And I'm a true believer in that, and is why being very conscious of what I'm saying to myself, right? What am I affirming? Like, what am I actually affirming? Am I affirming, just like when I eat something now, and this may be jumping ahead, I don't know, but I remember in the days that I was struggling with the losing of the weight, and when I finally it's not that I figured it out, but it was this compounding effort of small little actions that I took. And then one day I realized I had heard something or read something, and it dawned on me. They said, when you're eating something, what are you saying about what you're eating? Yeah. You know, whether it's a dessert or a salad, or, you know, if you're eating something, are you telling yourself, this is so bad for me while I'm eating it? You know, because what you say and your thoughts really have an impact on how your body's going to incorporate the food, how is it going to digest the food, you know? And so I started going, oh my gosh, I'm telling myself everything I'm sticking in my mouth is bad, you know? And then that's kind of this affirmation that I had taken on, and I started to really become conscious of what am I saying about the food and that I'm putting into my body.
Well, that's another thing too that we didn't even talk about, even as we did the show prep. The food in itself is manipulated so that it's designed for us to want it and desire it more. Think of soda. That's
sugar
just like
and salt.
That's just pipeline full of sugar. And what does our brain want? It wants more sugar. You know, it's not satisfied with strawberries. It's got to have, you know, high fructose corn syrup. Yeah. And if you notice, if you go to the grocery store, everything you purchase, typically, like everything in a box, will have some sort of sugar additive in it.
Even the diet foods or the health foods.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was like, I buy oat milk in lieu of just regular milk, and even that has like, you know, 7 grams of added sugar to it. Yeah. I'm like, it's supposed to be healthy, and it doesn't. And so like we have to be very conscientious of everything, and we'll talk about more about, you know, our inner struggles and our inner journey, but. I mean, even being consciously aware of the foods that we eat is significant. You know, adding just that one layer of cheese, it has a bunch of different things in there where it entices you to eat more of it.
Yeah, and I think that the secrets of the food industries and the big Coke and Pepsis is starting to come out, right? There's a lot of different media out there, and different people who are uncovering the fact that they're basically, it's kind of like they're sprinkling cocaine in your food. You know, in your drink, to keep us hooked so that we keep buying those things, and nobody really thinks it's that big a deal. But if you look at it, it's basically like they're drugging the food to make you come back, you know?
And even down to colors, like red and yellow incite our brain activity to want to eat. Yeah. Just seeing, you know, reds and yellows. Mm-hmm. That's why everything around here is blue. Otherwise, I'd be hungry all the time.
That's why I always wear black.
It's blue. No. Is that what it is? I did notice that. But I mean, that's a whole discussion in itself. So I think, again, going back to the point of being very conscientious of what, you know, where we're at in life, our own emotions, the types of food we're putting in our mouth, because that kind of is coincidental, I believe. You know, the more that you are depressed or in this depressed state, you need a stimulant to get out of there. And the first stimulant that's offered that's free, or maybe not free, but definitely available, is food. And that was always my kind of sanctuary in a way. It's like always my getaway. And it felt like like I was cheating. You know, I was married at the time. I'm not, and when I would sneak away to have these like double cheeseburgers, I felt like like it was a big secret. I didn't want people, the presentation is I'm eating healthy. I'm eating my bars. I'm eating my Go-Gurt bars, whatever bar there was, because that's not even healthy for you, by the way. You don't like Go-Gurt?
No, Go-Gurt's the yogurt.
Oh, boy. Whatever it is. It was a bunch of shit you tried back and forth.
Yeah.
And the presentation is like, I'm eating healthy.
Yeah.
But then behind the scenes, behind the cloak, I was eating like shit, and going back to, I loved fries. I mean, there was, every so often I'd sneak away, on the way back home from work, to home, I'd go back to Burger King or McDonald's and get, the French fries and a little ice cream.
Shake, yeah.
So my favorite thing was like getting the apple pie, and then, so you take a bite. Okay. Do not do this, by the way. I would get a bite of apple pie and then a bite of like the ice cream cone, and it'd be like, oh yeah, apple pie a la mode.
Yeah.
And it takes because of it's enticing, it's full of sugar, it's tricking your brain that you need more of that.
Exactly. Yeah. That whole food industry is a big part.
Yeah.
It's a big part of the reason why a lot of us get stuck and sucked in, and then we also have the power to get out of that. You know, clearly we made are
it
your
out of
living
there.
examples of that.
We've
right?
lost a lot of weight. I think we've probably lost a person and a half between the two of us.
I think I'm at 65,
65 what?
40, 60 pounds.
Oh,
away from what I was always hovering at before. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're also taller too. Mary's like what 5'10". Yeah, see, I'm 5'10". And so I think for a woman being that stature, your weight is going to be a little bit different anyway.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm 5'10" Hispanic, so kind of I'm just the average guy, but I need to lose a little bit more. I do recognize I need to lose a bit more. But coming from that point, I believe you definitely have to be conscientious of everything that's around you. Why you're eating that, and why you choose to eat that, and where you're at in your life, and why you having these feelings, and why that's. I think food in itself is a drug. So why are you reverting to that drug? It's an acceptable drug.
Yeah, I think that your point is just to get to the bottom of what is going on with me. What is it that I'm running from? What is it that I'm masking? What is it that I'm, am I out of control? And also, along with being conscientious of what we eat, being conscientious of the thoughts that we're having. Like, I'm sure those moments when you were sneaking off, you were having shaming yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, the shame would come when I put myself on the weight machine. Be like,
I think that maybe it was unconscious that you had to have had if you were sneaking off, there was some shame there.
Yeah.
Oh,
sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I absolutely agree that there was some shame there.
Yeah.
But and again, exploring what that was, and it wasn't another person. It was really myself. And at that point in my life, I really didn't recognize what was holding me back. Holding me back in my career, because my career wasn't going that well. That was just before I went to the state. I was depressed about that. Not having a passion, I think, is definitely, and we've talked about that too, those three realms. Not having a passion for yourself, not having direction for yourself definitely puts you in that kind of status where you feel like you're not worthy enough. Especially if you're with a spouse or partner that at that time was not supportive of that or trying to help you through that. But is that their responsibility? No. I mean, a lot of it is just like being very consciously aware of what your state is and where you're at and why you feel depressed and why you're going to that as a need. I think that's the biggest insight that I had.
Yeah, and that's the important part too, because all of those years that I did the yo-yo dieting and it was like trying to fix the problem from the outside, from the physical part, right? Watching what you eat, tracking it all, going to the gym, that's you can absolutely do it that way, but you're going to rebound back if you haven't taken care of what was it in here that was causing that.
So right? Let's answer it at the same time.
What?
Let's answer it at the same time.
Answer what?
Do diets work?
No.
I think that's the biggest learning lesson in trying to lose weight is that diets, doesn't matter where you go. Jenny Craig, maybe, I don't know. But any of those diets, any scheme, any little trick or whatever, any pill does not work.
I think it will appear like it works.
Yeah.
It can.
I think it will at the start.
It can if you're also working on this piece, this piece, and you're making it a whole life change, and you're just needing a little bit of education on some guidelines you can follow. Although just not changing anything and jumping on a diet, absolutely. You can lose a little bit of weight and then you're going to bounce right back and you're going to struggle and you're going to suffer and then you're going to give up on it, right? For most people, right? I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but that is the trend that's usually what happens. So yeah, I think that they can assist. They don't work, in my opinion.
So, and I'll get into that a little bit more too, but we're coming to the end. We have about 10 minutes left on the show today. And so we're going to continue to explore more a little bit about weight and the things that Mary and I had to endure and go through. But, if you like what you're seeing, go ahead and hit that like button because we appreciate it. And again, subscribe if you're on YouTube right now and, your thumbs are just not busy doing anything. We like the hearts too.
It's a button.
We love the love. So if you have any comments or questions, put those in there. We'll answer them as we go along or answer anything else. But we're coming to the part of the show where I'd like to kind of explore a little bit more about the things that we can help people with, because we're here to genuinely help everybody. And we're not going to, well, we can't give advice anyway. I don't know if we're not doctors or anything, but we have experiences that I believe have worked for both of us. And they could work for you too. And I think the larger thing is exploring what motivates you to have this weight. It's not just you. There's other factors involved, but there is a lot to you that you need to understand, I believe. And if I can do it, if Mary can do it, you can too.
And I think an important part of looking at what it is, getting to the bottom of what it is, taking self-responsibility, right? Because I know so many times during especially with having young children, it was, I'm overweight because they don't let me eat or have all these responsibilities. And
there's a lot of excuses.
There's excuses and there's a lot of you're tempted to point the finger out. It's everybody else's fault. So like really sitting with yourself and going, okay, what is it within me? What am I hiding from? What am I running from? And what is this about? Versus going, well, it's because I have all these circumstances around me. Of course, I'm going to have a little bit of weight on me,
I know, it's kind of funny. You're like, why did you buy the cheese Danish I put in my mouth? We tend to do that. But, if that's what somebody else wants to do, that's on them. Yeah. But that emotional drive is just like a magnet pulling you into that apple pie or whatever, that cheese Danish that's in front of you. So, and
it gets easier once you start getting down that path to once you start taking self-responsibility, it gets easier to stop blaming the others for, I can't help it. My, partner brought chips home and that's my weakness. It's like, that's an affirmation too. Yeah. Well, now it's going to be your weakness. So that'd probably bring us to maybe the next point in there.
Jalapeno kettle chips. Those are my weakness.
Hot Cheetos.
All those are yours?
I get the color and
those have like fructose corn syrup though.
It has all the bad stuff. Yeah.
It's got everything. Yeah. So don't eat those. But I would say one of the first things that I did that I realized was that I was eating too much quantity. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first thing I recognized because I really wanted of myself to this change. I was having physical difficulties. I remember one time, and again, this is grossly horrible, but I would be in the toilet and I saw some blood staining in there. And it's just like, that was one of those eye-catching things that was like, I don't want to die. It's really, that kind of like moment you're like, and then you try to hide it and you kind of like, pretend it didn't exist. Pretend these feelings aren't happening right now. But I do remember that very clearly that day that I saw that and I was like, I really, really need to change this. And it wasn't easy by any means. And again, the first recognition is that I shouldn't be going and buying 3 cheeseburgers, and I didn't initially change my habits, but I changed the quantity. And I still do this today too, because I will catch myself, I'll go and, indulge a little bit in like chicken wings, I'll go I'll buy an order of 6, but also realize that, okay, that's not nutrition. That's not food. So one of the first things I did was, eliminate one of the burgers. I didn't change my habit necessarily because you can't turn it off right away. So instead of buying 3, I bought 2. And then I got used to that. And then after that 2, I bought 1. And I'm like, well, why do I need 2 anyway? I'm usually full with 1 anyway. To the point where I'm like, I'm starting to just buy 1 and feeling okay with that. And I went from the 80-ounce Coke to like the 12-ounce, doing the same thing with that, to the point where I just completely eliminate soda. So that was another thing.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. I remember in my early days, it was like, tomorrow I'm cutting this out, this out, this out. Back then I quit smoking, and I'm going to quit smoking at the same time, and I'm going to start running every single day. And it's like going from 0 to 60, like that hardly ever works, right?
It never works. You do it for like 2 days, and then the third day you're like.
So I like that idea that you really did that with yourself.
Yeah, and it's being very consciously aware of that, and realizing, and like I went vegan too. And I went vegan for about 2 years and realized that being vegan doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose weight.
I was one of my heaviest when I was a vegan. Yeah.
Because you end up eating more carbs.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to eat. Because a lot of the diet's cheese and meat, and so you end up kind of eating more potato chips or hummus. You eat a lot of hummus and bread.
I ate a lot of rice. Yeah. Rice was my thing.
Which is a lot of carbs. Your body does need carbs, but it also needs a way to work that off. And so same thing for me as far as like incorporating these small changes was to make small changes in my own life, and one of the other things too I decided to do is read more. Read more books about depression, read more books about just feeling more confident. And then I wish I did it more consistently is exercise because your body needs that too.
Yeah.
And you don't need to go like heavyweight. You don't need to go crazy.
Right.
Just being active, and even if it's just taking a small walk, and that could be very endearing with a partner or somebody in your life.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, was there any techniques that you did were significant?
I think that when I finally went on the final round of weight loss, right, where I made the decision, I had tried the exercise, I had tried the diet, and then I tried the both of them together. And when I finally realized it was mostly my thinking. It was my thinking. I basically had fat thoughts, right? I would, even though I was eating good for the most part, we're going to indulge, we're going to enjoy. That's what life's about. When I would eat anything bad, all I could think about was, oh, tomorrow I have to go punish myself at the gym, and then I have to, this is so bad for me while I'm eating it. It's like, what am I doing? So one of the things that I really started doing is I personally started working on affirmations to work on my self-worth. Yeah. And it wasn't like I stood and, you've heard people stand in the mirror or say, stand in the mirror and talk about how beautiful, successful, and skinny you are. Well, your subconscious mind is not going to accept that when it's so clear. You're looking in the mirror and and basically you can do damage if you're doing an affirmation that causes that much resistance in your mind. So I started doing these very gentle affirmations. I have the ability to make good choices throughout the day. That didn't cause as much friction. I am on my way to being the healthiest I've ever been. That didn't cause as much friction as standing in the mirror and going, I am at perfect weight with perfect, everything. And so I started playing around with affirmations and just kind of being mindful around what I was telling myself about what I was putting in my body. This may sound really woo-woo and funny, but the way that our human intention is huge. And so when I was going to eat food, I would just thank the food, like, thank you that this is providing the perfect nutrition, and then I started doing that even when I was eating things like desserts. And then you get to actually enjoy what you're eating versus torment yourself about it and create another round of shame and spiraling thoughts about yourself. And so I started doing that as well. So affirmations to me were huge. Every day, I would say simple little things that didn't feel too much of a lie to me. I am doing everything that I can to become the healthiest version of myself. And that was a huge part of where I think I stepped over from trying to make it just a physical thing to really making the changes from the inside out. So that was something that I did that really worked for me.
Was there something that was overwhelmingly very successful for you in that? For me, like I think I described more of the kind of physical aspects of those changes, and I think what we're really talking about is habits and changing those habits. But I talked more about the physical parts, and you're kind of describing more the emotional part of that. And was there anything that was kind of a go-to for you? Like the quantity change for me has always been a go-to for me.
Yeah.
That I can manage, and I know I can change. Like I know if I'm getting 6 chicken wings, that I should just buy 5 the next time. And you know what? Be okay with that.
I started taking little steps to learning about nutrition.
Yeah.
Basically like making sure that, I'm going to look at the labels so I can start actually educating myself on what's here. Yeah. Not that I was overboard on it, but slowly just kind of trying to learn. And I think, from the years prior, when I had tried all these different diets and fads and learned about exercise, I realized that some of the things that I was starting to, they were like little actions that compounded into eventually me having a really good hold on what's good for me, what's not good for me, what exercises I should be doing. Just looking at the nutrition labels, because it just brings a level of awareness that allows you to make a little bit different decisions here and there. And like you said, right? Little decisions, little actions. Like, I also did the quantity. I still liked larger quantities at first, so I just made sure that my larger quantities were like salad. I would have these giant salads with a little bit of stuff, a little bit of dressing and a little bit of meat, but make sure that I was feeling full, but it was on something low calorie.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to do anything extreme.
No.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for today.
Yeah.
Do not do any crash diets or anything, because that really doesn't help you. It doesn't really help the long-term success of what you're trying to do. And, if I can cut back 90 pounds, anybody can, and like what Mary was saying, it's just you have to be very consciously aware of what you're putting in your mouth and force yourself to make those small changes.
Yeah.
And the significant part of my weight loss happened in 2 years. It didn't happen in 2 weeks.
Right.
It
takes time.
I still have the first belt, like the heaviest I got. It's got all the little niches on the side, and I'm still able. That reminds me to like never get that way again.
Yeah.
So just at least have those things to remind you that where you've been and kind of where you're at, because this journey doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop until you're dead.
And watch what you're telling yourself. Are you calling yourself like you were when you were a little kid? I found myself in the early stages calling myself fat all the time. Well, how is that? What if I'm telling myself I'm fat? My subconscious is going to go, okay, you're fat, so let's go do something.
Might as well have another apple pie.
Right, exactly. So what are you telling yourself? Like, start paying attention, because once you have the awareness, I'm going to start paying attention to how I'm talking to myself. Yep. You'd be surprised how much you're going to catch yourself just from that one little. I'm gonna start paying attention, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually you'll be aware of it all the time, and you'll be able to redirect that thought to something different, So, and like you said, it's like a million small, little, tiny things that add up.
Yeah.
And then you look at yourself a year later, you're like, oh my gosh, 2 years later, oh my gosh, I did it, and now I'm maintaining it, and it's not even something I have to think about anymore. I just naturally this is who I am now, So yeah, it's really beautiful to watch it, to really reflect and look back, because I don't do that very often with the weight loss anyway, but.
Yeah, because it's something that I believe I've mostly overcome. It's still, still a little bit of a challenge here and there, but, I feel in a good position where it's not holding me back emotionally from the things that I want to do. But I do get sharp reminders when you're like, okay, I got to work on it again. But
and I tend to do that. We all do that, right? There's different seasons, and so yeah.
It's okay. It is okay. And we're here. So we're here every week talking about emotions, how to overcome them, how to take a leadership position in addressing some of the things that you're most challenged with. Rob Morales, RCO Network, with my esteemed co-host
Make
on
sure
the
you
Inner
look
Journey.
at your notes.
Oh, I didn't say Heather.
I'm just kidding.
I said Miss Mary with Miss Mary VanAlstyne. So thank you guys. We'll see you next week. Adios.